good, people? Izzy Max here, back again with some Max Double League weekly breakdown for week 2 of the Red Division. Of course, I'm joined by Ryan and Johnny.
Hey guys, how's it going?
So this week is going to start a little bit weird. We're actually going to start on week 1, and I'll go ahead and handle this one. This is a match that kind of got delayed, pushed back, delayed again. Played 2 games, had a weird DC, tried to recreate, physically impossible, then we had to play on Showdown. But this is Dark versus Grant, and it ended in a +5 for Dark and a -6 for Grant. The teams you're going to see are Togekiss, Draco Zolt, Yuxi, Hippowdon, Chandelure, and Milotic. And then on Grant's side, we have Venusaur, Sableye, Landorus, Musharna, Drampa, and Jolteon. First thoughts on these teams, Ryan?
I like the comps they brought to play each other with. These are what I would expect to see. Sableye, when I look at this matchup, I think Sableye can put in a lot of work with the Quash stuff and Will-O-Wisp and, in this case, Sunny Day. And when I look at Dark's side, I see Chandelure being kind of a big potential player if the Venusaur didn't tech Earth Power. And I see Milotic being kind of a huge problem if Venu's taken care of. And Togekiss just looks good here. In general, it beats a lot of the mons on the field that aren't Jolteon.
Right. Johnny, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, same type of thing here. I mean, Togekiss being a big player, and Landorus T is always scary. And gosh, Drampa, I mean, there's so much you can do with it, because it's basically like discount Moltres, I guess, even though Drampa's the OG. But yeah, a lot of big threats on both sides. So really creative comps.
For sure. We're not going to talk too much into this. We're just going to go over our notes real fast. I'll go ahead and start. Trick Room in Game 3 was huge. Dark was spamming ally switches in Game 1 and 2, which got him a close win and then a loss in Game 2, a win in Game 1, and then in Game 3, he just bluffed the ally switch and went straight for the Trick Room with the Yuxi and allowed the Chandelure to basically sweep in its max form because the Sableye set up the Sun for it, and then Max Chandelure just said, all right, goodbye Venusaur, and Max flared it, and it was just dead. Positioning on both sides were really, really well. That's pretty much what this game came down to, is who positioned better, ended up winning. On Grant's side, the lack of Protect was a little weird, and I didn't necessarily like it. Since you are a weather team, you need to play the positioning game very well, and Protect is kind of one of those key moves in that positioning game, trying to call, trying to scout, all that. And then the Sun mode with Sableye was super smart to deny Sand on the opposite side. Ninetales, it sets the Sun automatically, so you can switch it in. But Sableye kind of sits there, and if it's the lead Hippowdon, you just click Sunny Day. If Hippowdon comes in, you kind of let it come in, and then you just click Sunny Day again, and then the Sand is just gone. So I do like the Sableye instead of the Ninetales. Johnny, we'll go to you next.
Great, yeah. Sableye did a lot of great work. And, I mean, I agree on, the Protect and stuff like that. Because, I mean, gosh, when you do anything with speed, or you do anything with weather, you really do have to watch what's going on with positioning and having redirection, or especially Protect, or even Ally Switch, the calamity that is Ally Switch. But being able to do that. So there was a really good sense of outspeeds and just knowing what was going to live or die on Dark's side, which was really great. He kind of cracked the code on what was going on with the different speed tiers, to where, like, when we built up to the climax, which is Game 3, I mean, it just looked like butter playing, because he got the Trick Room off, and he was able to know what hits he was going to live and outspeed things, and just sweep with the Chandelure that last game. But there was a really great sense of what was going to happen, and especially kind of these mid-tier speeds. We often think about like the really, really slow mons and say, okay, those are Trick Room mons and these are what's going to work. And then the really, really fast, but it's a lot harder to think about those mid speeds and to remember all those different speeds. But I think Dark did a really great job of knowing what was going on there.
For sure, Ryan.
Yeah, a lot of what's been said already, I just agree with. Let's see. Okay, though, the lack of protect was interesting because I get where his headset is, because I like the assault vest, and I actually wrote down on my notes something you guys haven't talked about yet was the Jolteon. I think it was game 2, did a lot of work. Like it like carried that game. So I actually really liked that. I do think the Max Chandelier, especially in that game 3, is a little understated in how good it is. Chandelier is one of those pieces I was the most interested in with Dark's team in general, because I always lose to it. And it has 145 base special attack, and it's a fast TR setter, which is kind of a weird niche. But I think his usage of it this week was really good. I was very impressed. Part of the reason, and I actually am just impressed with how Dark's team is playing out. That said, I think that for just starting out, Grant has made a pretty good showing here for his first game. I mean, that game 1 and 2 was very good, and if he had actually, and if Dark had done the ally switch that game, Grant just auto won that game 3. So I do think that was a really good set overall. I really liked it.
Yeah, I mean, if it comes down to a 50-50 of you getting swept or you winning, I think it was a good game.
Yeah.
So like I said, this was our last game of week 1, so we'll go ahead and move on. Next up, Johnny, here's your solo show. Go for it.
All by yourself, man. I'm going to go sip some lemonade. Be back.
Oh, you're going to go day drink? All right, have fun. Well, so yeah, this was a great match here between Izzy Max and Ryan. I mean, of course, and it's really funny to see, like, watching both of their videos, how they've prepped for each other because they know each other so well. So there was a lot of really cool stuff going on. And when we get to our notes here, there's a few things going on there with expecting what they're going to bring. But for starters, just seeing the matchup, we see a very clear trick room mode on Ryan's end, and kind of a bulky offensive on Izzy Max's, I guess, except for the Tapu Lele, which I think is trying to set itself up for sweeping. Can you guys hear those dogs barking?
A little bit.
Yeah, sorry about that. Can you move on to the notes?
Yeah, go ahead. Here we go.
Yeah, so it's my first time, okay, you know? But, with the notes here, a few comments I had about the team comps when they came out was like the first turn. I really appreciate the explosion and the mind blown strategy. I mean, that's a great way to literally clear the field. And really good approach because I think I know Ryan, I think he had said in his prep that his main sweeper was going to be Slow King. And that's what Izzy Max had calced for, was to blow that thing up. So that was a really great play on Izzy's side there. I would have liked to maybe see, well, you know, and that's me with my silly stuff. Like I have like 30 normal gems in my bag rotting. But to have like a normal gem on the Gigalith and then Shell Bell on the Blacephalon, because if it got off all that damage, it could just heal it right back with the Shell Bell. But the Charcoal on there really did some really good damage, and then Gigalith just turned out doing really, really great stuff. That was a really great call on the Protect, though, which, seems kind of random, but also, I mean, there was those memes flying around about how to stop Hatterini and, what was the other? Indeedee, of course, with Rock Slide because of the flinch. So it seemed somewhat natural to do that Protect on the first turn there. Let's see. I really like the Haxorus and the Marowak. I mean, gosh, in the right conditions, because this game, I think it says at the very end here, is it looked like it was kind of one-sided, I guess, if you go off of the numbers. But, I mean, there's just a few crucial moments in the games that if they had gone slightly differently or a different call was made, for instance, like the T-Wave that got absorbed by the Marowak, if that was an Iron Defense, I mean, that game would have ended completely differently. But really great prep on the Haxorus. I know there was some really specific calking going on there. And then the coaching onto the Registeel was a really great strategy, adding to its defense. Ryan completely called the telepathy on Lele. I was wondering, Ryan, why did you have Lightning Rod on the Marowak?
That was for Thunder Punch Halucha because Thunder Punch Halucha looked pretty good, and I thought he might bring it. It was also
Gotcha.
because Mr. Mime Galar was his only Trick Room setter, and if he wanted to deny Trick Room the traditional way by just resetting my own with his own, T-Wave was very free on Mr. Mime Galar, and I didn't want to have to. Paralysis spam was a bit of an issue if he went the Mr. Mime Galar route. I didn't expect him to bring it, but that I needed to have some protection against that. And a max toxicity in a similar vein could have been an issue had he gone for it in the correct circumstance. So I chose Lightning Rod for those reasons. At the time, I literally messaged Matt I won't Registeel and Marowak will never be on the field together at the same time, and then it happened, and my brain was not ready. So and I was 36 hours without power. I was dead.
Right.
But yes, that was intentional. That was specifically for Thunderwave spam, Thunder Punch Halucha, and Thunderwave from Mr. Mime Galar, because that was a tech I ran last season a lot, so I know it's pretty good.
That makes sense, yeah. And I had seen the Toxtricity on there, but I didn't think about Thunder Punch Halucha, which, again, the whole knowing each other's teams, and you ran that a lot last season. I mean, that makes a lot of sense to see that, right? So that was a big at play here. And then I think, that's about it. I mean, just I don't know if I said this already, but I really appreciated Maxwell's kind of predicting what you would bring, especially the expanding force on the Blacephalon, because I don't know if did you have a way to set that up, Maxwell, or
nope.
were you just you just thought that he'd bring the Indeedee, and that's because it's got follow me and everything, and it's probably going to set the terrain. So I mean, that was a great call. And of course, the Gigalith, I don't know if that was intentional, but it is the way I used it in season 1 is if they set up a trick room, Jigalith is so slow that, in case you can't blow up the Slowking, you've got a pretty good mon to come in during that trick room and, underspeed the opponent. So,
and
that's all I got on my end.
Go ahead, Ryan. For it, Maxwell. Oh, I was going to say, one of the big things I was thinking he would do would actually just be lead Telepathy Lele Blacephalon and click Expanding Force Mind Blown. Because he knew I would be setting Psychic Terrain for him. At one point, my team actually had a Sucker Punch physical Moltres on it, and I was going to lead without Psychic Terrain, and I was going to Sucker Punch the Blacephalon turn 1.
Lele doesn't get Expanding Force, so I couldn't do Expanding Force.
You would. Oh yeah, you're right. So it was going to be Dazzling Gleam.
Yeah,
Mind Blown. That was what I meant to say.
And Johnny, to your comment, it was. To start, it was normal gym, and then I was like, this is going to be a max option if he says Trick Room, and then I went to AV, and I thought, I really don't need AV, I kind of like Protect, and that's why I went to the weakness policy. But the Charcoal was necessary if he was a specially defensive, or a physically defensive Slowking. I needed the extra damage boost from Charcoal, and Life Orb was somewhere else. And then if he was specially defensive, the Charcoal let the Explosion get the one-hit KO. So there was really no stance where Slowking actually lived that double up. And I just had to pray that he wasn't protecting.
I cannot believe that you ran no rock move Gigalith with Explosion Protect. That was so dumb. Nope. I was game 2. I was like, oh, I got my weakness policy off. I can get the Max Geyser. He's got to be AV. Nobody runs Explosion Protect, and then you Max Geyser. I was like, well, fuck me, I guess.
Yeah.
Who does that? I was so angry.
Yeah, and I also, this is something that people are going to have to watch out for. I also bluffed the Sand Rush on the Dracovish.
You ran
that was nice.
I noticed that once my Registeel got hit. I was like, oh, fuck me. Okay.
Yeah, so people are going to have to watch out for that. And then lastly, Ryan, Gigalith is base 25, not 30.
Yeah, that was me being dumb. That's all that was, which it was actually fine.
Yeah, it was fine. All right, moving on. Johnny, take a break. Here we go. We got John versus Burks.
On the day drink.
So the teams we got here is Credilli, Rillaboom, Volcarona, Comfey, Suicune, Hitmonlee. On the other side, we have Tapu Fini, Lycanroc, Talonflame, Sceptile, Togetic, and Magnezone. First thoughts on this is there is and Burst is kind of figuring this out, and transactions, which me and Dan will talk about later. He's figuring out that there's kind of a lack of offense here. You look at this, you think, okay, well, you do have Lycanroc. It can do a lot of damage, but it is incredibly frail. Magnezone, probably your biggest damage bringer here. Sceptile's super fast. Its damage output, I would say, is mediocre. And then you're kind of relying on just strong recoil hits from the Talonflame, because Finny is great. Finny's bulky. But from my knowledge of using and watching and playing against Finny, it's kind of lacking in the damage department, and he's realizing that, and I think it's getting fixed. But on Johnny's side, this is pretty close to pure offense, and I absolutely love it. So Ryan, what do you got?
Yeah, pretty much the same. When I was looking at preview, my thought, looking at this matchup, I was like, Rillaboom's free. Like, I had Rillaboom last season. Rillaboom was so free this game. And it kind of ended up being sort of free, and Johnny forgot high horsepower for some reason. So even if he had that, this would have been even better for him. Even as it stood, though, he was fine. Looking at the comp, I was thinking maybe like a Comfey weakness policy with the Hitmonlee. That was looking maybe cool. And Suicune was really good here. It just matches up well into Burst team on the whole. Volcarona was good if he hadn't brought Lycanroc. I could have seen Volcarona just coming in and eating the whole team, pretty much. So yeah, I like the brings on that side. Burst, I like. You got the Unburdened Sceptile, which is good because that outspeeds a lot of John's team. You got the Togetic to kind of redirect some hits. I like the Magnezone here a lot into John's team. But that's kind of just where I was at.
Yeah. And one of the main problems, like I said, Burst has already kind of figured it out. And speed tiers. When Magnezone is your main offense and that speed tier is kind of just meh, you're going to run into some issues. But man, that Magnezone put in a lot of damage. But Ryan, why don't you go ahead and start with your notes?
Rillaboom go bird.
Yeah.
That was my first note. No high horsepower. I do feel that. That was just like oh crap, this is the wrong move.
I thought that was helping hand. Thing. Okay, thank God that's high horsepower.
LOL.
No, high horsepower. Come on. No helping hand. I feel you, bro. You gotta lend a helping hand to those things.
I was like, what does this mean?
Man.
And you're not doing that, John. Like, you're not charitable enough. I need you to work on yourself.
I'm trying.
Moving
on.
Talonflame had some good pressure. I liked the bring here. I thought it was good. The skill beam over the flash cannon was a little interesting. I've run skill beam over flash cannon before. I don't think this was necessarily the week to do it unless it somehow got you a calc. Skill beam versus flash cannon will only usually give you about 10% in the damage calculator on your max moves. And if you're planning on your main offensive threat being Magnezone, I don't think you want to be out of max clicking skill beams against a team as bulky as John's. That felt very risky, and I'm not sure it was necessary. The Hitmonlee Normal Gem was fire. It was really cool when it was outspeeding when it was like outspeeding stuff that was boosted by Unburden also. Like, that was really cool, and it did a lot of good damage. I thought that was neat. And I didn't put this on my notes, but I generally have always thought Sceptile's kind of a middling max option, and this game is part of the reason why. Because I've been in I actually just was adminning in a league, and I had like 5 people down my throat that Sceptile was tier 4 and not tier 3. I was like, no, I think it's tier 4, guys. Slurpuff is in tier 4, and so is Thievul, and they're as good or better than Sceptile is. And I think this was kind of a good example as to why I tend to not love them on. I think it can be good, and Burst actually has a pretty good comp for it. One of the better ones I've seen, but that's why I think that's part of the reason why that game 1 went the way it did, was I don't think the Sceptile max was doing enough.
Yeah, I kind of like Sceptile more as an off offense with some support options, because I know it gets like Leer, which is interesting in VGC.
Yeah.
But it gets some decently good support options, super fast, decently bulky for a grass type.
Yeah, it is.
And it can hit really hard with Leaf Blade. So Like, I do like it. I just don't think it's a max option. But one thing on the Steel Beam, I think it was for a max Volcarona.
That would make sense.
Since Volcarona has decent special defense, I think you are getting close to a 2-shot with Steel Beam instead of Flash Cannon.
Yeah, it also could have been AV Regirock that he was talking for. He'll have to tell us.
Yeah.
But that was my first thought.
Yeah.
I looked at that and I was like I use Steel Beam a lot, so obviously I'm familiar with it, but I'm not 100% sure if that was the right call. He'd have to send me the calcs and and show me the math to convince me of that, because at a glance I actually wouldn't think it would be worthwhile.
Right, but anyway, for my side, Talonflame Magnezone was a super strong combo. This kind of goes into my middling speed talk before we got into our notes. Setting that Tailwind for the Magnezone is just so good. I'm glad, because when we were in team preview, Burst almost clicked Togetic Talonflame again. And I was like, oh my god, don't do that. And then the pivot into the zone was just super, super smart. Talonflame Magnezone puts on so much pressure, and I absolutely love it. Johnny, got to have ground coverage when you're fighting a Magnezone.
I mean, it worked out. I'm joking. Yeah, no, I need it, man.
And then just on both sides, because it was pretty much a sweep, and then a close game 3, setting the end games was just really, really well done on both sides, knowing what you had to do to kind of clean it up. Other than kind of game 3, it could have got a little sloppy, but the end game setups were really, really good. Johnny, what's your thoughts on your own match?
Yeah, it was kind of a tough match because, again, I left out a high horsepower. But, I mean, yeah, there was a lot of really good potential there for me to lose. I mean, because, like you said, Talonflame and Magnezone, especially with my lack of coverage, could have really went to town on me. But, yeah, I mean, there was just a few crucial things there, like knowing what to predict, especially like on the quick guard and stuff like that.
That 50-50 quick guard was super important.
Yeah, so, and that was one of those calls that I made, goes into the mind games of things. It's kind of like with Ally Switch. It's like, are they going to switch again? Or are they going to predict that you think that they're going to switch, yada, yada. But, yeah, there was a lot of good things here. And, but I mean, going in, I just thought, Rillaboom is just going to hit hard. And I really had thought that there was going to be more Tailwind shenanigans. But with Rillaboom, I had just thought that it would tank everything and just blow stuff up with its giant drum solo. So, I mean, that was my plan. So if anyone was like, oh, was he thinking of outspeeding? No, I knew I'd be slower, but I was just going to hit him real hard.
Yep.
So
that's how God intended it. I will say one thing we probably should have put on the notes was Quick Guard Lycanroc. You had the issue is Maxwell and I have run Quick Guard Lycanroc Dusk like 3 times now. So to me, that was just normal. That is a good tech. Like, that's a creative, good tech. Unfortunately, Maxwell and I wrote the notes and I just sat here and went, oh, wait a minute. That was a really cool creative tech and we didn't write it down.
Because we've done
Maxwell
it before.
And we've done it before to a Rillaboom team, like multiple times. So that was good. I liked the quick card there.
For sure.
And I think it was actually utilized quite well. That's kind of a tricky move at times.
Yeah, especially in a best of 3, it is very, very tricky. But moving on, is this our last one? It is. So we're back to Dark and Hector. And yes, if the team looks similar, this is the exact same team Dark brought for week 1. Why fix it if it ain't broke?
When he posted the same exact paste he did last time, I was like, oh,
power play, man.
I wasn't expecting that.
Listen, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but fix it for week 3, because I don't think this is going to work. But anyway.
No.
Not going to go over Dark's team, but Hector's side, we have Duraludon, Aerodactyl, Maractus again, Alolan Persian, Dugtrio, and Pikachu. Ryan, we'll start with you. What's up with this?
I'm not sure. So I like the Duraludon here a lot. Duraludon makes a lot of sense. It hits. It can pretty much hit Dark's whole team with perfect coverage. If you run an AV set with Quake, Wormwind, Skill Spike, Thunder Attack, Lightning Attack, whatever, that will hit everything.
Everything except the hippo.
Right. So, which we'll get to. I'm just speaking. What first thoughts on Hector's side? Aerodactyl seems really good here. I like it. Maractus seems, part of his issue is he has to dip down into tier 5 to like counter water and ground types, which are everywhere, which I think is a problem. Regardless, Maractus is here. I think it's a pretty good Milo check, maybe. I level low on Persian. I think it's a really, really good bring here, especially with some of the special attackers, the Snarl, the Quick, the Foul Plays, those kind of things. Really good into Dark's team. Pikachu as a potential max option or Light Ball user could be good in theory, and it can Lightning Rod, for the Bolt Beaks off the Dracozolt, trying to scare it, I think. So yeah, I mean, we weren't talking a whole lot about Dark's team, but I do look at this and think, wow, Hippowdon's gonna go in. Like that was my first thought when I saw these teams in preview. I think Hector brought good tools, but I don't know if they were all there,
Yeah, for sure. John, what do you got?
Yeah, same type of stuff. When I look at Hector's team, of course, I've always talked up this team because I know in the initial rankings it was ranked kind of low along with mine, but I see this comp and I think it goes in and it just tries to cripple the other team, like lower all of its stats and fake it out, and then Duraludon comes in and cleans up. But when you look at Dark's team, though, you see a lot of synergistic stuff, and especially the Hippo, since he goes pretty offensive on it. I mean, yeah, I see that, and I see it coming in and just crushing everything with giant rocks and whatnot. And then, of course, the Dracozolt there has a lot of push behind it. So when I saw this, I thought it was more of a good matchup for Dark's end, unless Hector could get off some of those shenanigans. And then, of course, I peed myself when I saw Maractus. So those are my thoughts.
All right, moving into notes. I'll go ahead and start. Hippo continues to be huge for Dark. It's almost, I think it is his kill leader, and I think it's like 3rd out of week 2 for straight up kill lead, which is kind of funny. Great speed control again from the Uxie, proving that it is going to be a really good grade A Trick Room setter with all of its bulk. It's just being super utilized with the way Dark is running it. Duraludon was pretty much the only main source of damage, which I felt was a little weird. Of course, you can see Aerodactyl being offensive, but I think that thing is just too frail for my liking. But that's just me as a player. I do like more bulky style of offenses. But on dang it, who are we talking about here? With Duraludon being the only source of offense, my bad. You kind of struggle to deal with some of the bulkier options that Dark has in the Uxie, even the Togekiss and the Hippowdon. And I just feel like that's going to be a struggle moving forward for Hector. But I think he'll be able to adjust, and maybe he's just had a bad matchup here. I don't know. But Ryan, let's go through your notes.
Hippo goes stomp. That was the first thing I typed on that slide, because I guess I have no shame. Liked the TR mode. I thought it was really good. TR has been something I'm very interested to see how Hector's team deals with over the course of the season. I did write same team as last week, ? I mean, it worked. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it, I guess. I wouldn't recommend bringing that exact comp to 6 months every week, though. That won't work out for you long term. But Dark knows that. The type weaknesses came up again to Hector's team. I've been saying it since the PRs, and I'll say it again. Quake Slide coverage, man. It's still very good. Vaporeon has helped, I guess, in theory, but it didn't come this week. So, and I have to admit, I was impressed with Duraludon. I'm always impressed with Duraludon. And Hector makes very good plays, and I see where his head sets a lot in. Like, in theory, I see where his head is at every week.
Yep.
But, like, in practice, it's not working for him because I think other people just can outbulk and KO a bunch of his stuff. So we'll just see how things work out in the long term for him. I do think that Dark is having a very strong showing early season, especially coming off the heels of last season, where he really struggled. I think this team, being essentially a modified version of a team that he's used in the past, is really helping him, and he's already very comfortable with it.
Yeah, it's basically a modified version of his second place team.
Yeah, so I think this modified comp is really helping him come out the gate swinging in a way that not a lot of coaches, because a lot of coaches have drafted stuff that's fairly unfamiliar to them this season. So people are still figuring out their comps a little bit, while I feel like Dark already knows the comp in and out in a way that I don't think anybody else really has in the, like, not just in the red division, but I'd argue almost in the entire league.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my thoughts. I think it was a good game, and that's all I got.
All right, Johnny.
Nice. Well, yeah, the biggest, I mean, a lot of the same content going around here, especially, I'll get the hippo out of the way. Of course, it did great work. And, I used to think of that as kind of a thing that sat there. Of course, it set up sand, but I mean, gosh, it's being used so well. But yeah, on Hector's side, I really had a tough time with the trick room. And I know, because, I make notes on every team I go against, and I'll write down, like, what mons have taunt and what mons have redirection and stuff. And I've got, like, an Excel worksheet about that. But, I didn't see any taunt come out. And, I mean, Trick Room just comes in and kind of is a really great tool against Hector's team right now. So, and overall, I mean, just on Hector's side, it lacked a finishing power. I know that's kind of, it's like, what does that mean? But in terms of, it can do big damage at first, but then it's hard to follow up with. And then the combinations of mons, it's like you can say, okay, Aerodactyl's really fast and strong, and Duraludon's really strong and puts out good damage. And it can get off initial hits, but if you've got mons that can defend against those hits, because the typings are somewhat similar, like steel and then rock and ground, if you can defend against those, then and chip away at Duraludon, especially Aerodactyl being so frail, it's really easy to just mow over them in the late game, I think. So just one of the things, it's, again, I like the more offensive, bulky types of builds, because you can take big hits, but then as the game progresses, I mean, you can just keep putting out damage, whereas I think that's a little lacking on Hector's side. But speaking of bulky, man, the Uxie was really fantastic. I mean, it took a lot of hits, and it set up the Trick Room. It was incredibly reliable. And I really liked the Milotic. It did a really good job, especially I think that was game 3. It kept surviving every time, my most hated enemy, Maractus, would come in and use Giga Drains on it. The Milotic, as it was setting up with the coils and stuff, I mean, it put in a lot of really good work.
Yeah, for sure. It was weird. Like, the Milotic had no way of hitting the Maractus, but who cares? You were putting it to sleep with 100% accurate hypnosises, so that's fine. One thing that I didn't put on here is the Maractus set is actually questionable. Why would you run a sub Maractus in the face of an Infiltrator Chandelure? Like, it wasn't Infiltrator this week because he ran the same team he did last week, but like, it should have been. So the sub was kind of weird. That's kind of the weirdest thing I seen. But yeah, I don't know what Maractus has. That's my thing. I don't know if that's like the best option for it.
That's why it's so scary.
I guess.
Is Maractus our like uncanny valley mon of the season, where you see it in preview and it's like just pricks at you and you just watch it with it's just horrifying.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And you could look up its moves, but you don't want to. And
yeah,
I mean, it's just a threat, guys. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's gonna do it for us. We'll go into closing thoughts here. I am super excited for the way this league is going. Next week will be our last, in quotation, breakdown before we go into our first PR with all 6 of us, which is going to be great.
That'll be insane.
That's going to be incredibly nuts. But yeah, I think everybody's kind of figuring out how their team works. The league is progressing almost how I expected it to currently. I think some of the teams who haven't really started running yet on all fours, I think will here very, very shortly. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, that's going to be it for me, Ryan.
Yeah, Matt and I are making our hot takes video tomorrow. Make sure you tune into that. It will be very serious, and there will be no jokes. Yes.
And
Johnny?
Johnny.
Fantastic. Yeah, season's going great. A lot of crazy stuff going on. But on the flip side, I've got a giveaway, as you guys have seen. And I'm about to get Matt's out. I finally got my Pokemon Emerald back, and I'm handing out the Jirachi for that. But for week 3, I'm doing a special giveaway, and this will be for all the coaches, not just the winners. But I'm doing Zigzagoons, shiny Zigzagoons, in fact. If anyone remembers the old Berry Glitch patch that they released at the kiosks, you could go to GameStop and stuff. But I've got a Zigzagoon with the OT to Ruby and OT to Sapphire. So red team will get Ruby and Sapphire for blue team. But I'll be doing that on week 3. And I think I'm going to do it probably every other week. I'll find some good mons to give away. But look out for that giveaway for week 3. So that's all I got.
Fantastic. And I'm enjoying you doing that. So thank you very much. But
no problem.
Without further ado, we will see you guys in the next one. Peace.